Welcome back, everybody. So, my next movie review for you is a bit of a tough one for me. I have to admit, I have reviewed this movie on my old channel beforehand, and I'm just gonna do it again. So, Batman versus Superman. This is going to be a very difficult review for me because I am in that majority of people that actually enjoyed this movie. If I can get to the end of a movie in a cinema and walk out of that cinema and go, I actually did enjoy that, it's a good watch for me. That being said, yes, I do know there are flaws with this movie, and I do know there is a lot of hate for this movie as well. I also recommend, if you haven't seen it, to try the extended cut as well. It does fill in a lot of gaps in this movie, and it is a better watch for me. But like I said, this movie does have flaws, which I'm gonna try my hardest not to get into because I do generally like this movie. So this movie stars Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne as Batman, Henry Cavill as Clark Kent and Superman, and Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. And honestly, this movie, like I said, it's going to be really difficult. I'm not going to lie, this is going to be properly difficult because I know there are problems with this movie. The movie itself, the storyline in this is kind of it can be, and it is a little bit predictable in places. I'm not going to lie. The one thing that really stands out for me is the fight scene between Batman versus Superman. Now, I remember the fight scene between Batman versus Superman in The Dark Knight Rises, and that doesn't happen until later on in his life. I get why they put this in here. I really, really do. I like the idea of Batman versus Superman fighting it out. The idea that Batman wants to get rid of this alien, superhuman alien that brought so much devastation and carnage to Metropolis in Man of Steel. I get what they were trying to do here. The biggest problem I've got with this movie is there is such a build up to this fight scene, and that fight scene only lasts like 5 to 7 minutes. That is the biggest downside of this movie for me because there is a huge build up to this for that to be a very much an anticlimax to that fight scene. And you know exactly the bit that I'm on about is the fact that Batman gets shaken out of his kill rage through the fact that his mum and Superman's mum both share the same name. That was extremely disappointing for me. Really, really was. And that is probably one of the biggest bugbears of this movie is how fast he snapped out of that and the fact that they become friends very, very quickly in this movie. That's one of the biggest problems. I told you this was going to be harder than it is. Now, Ben Affleck as Batman. I am in that category of people that actually enjoyed him as Batman. Now, I love Christian Bale as Batman. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. But Ben Affleck brought a different style of Batman into this kind of franchise, which I seriously enjoyed. I've always wanted to see a more darker, deeper, brooding Batman in the movies, and Ben Affleck managed to deliver that. He was so angry, and I liked the Batman in Batman versus Superman, but I did not enjoy the Batman in the Justice League because they gave him far too much comedic factor again, which then spoiled that character for me in the Justice League, but in Batman versus Superman, I seriously enjoyed his performance. It's what I expected it to be, a very tough, very battle scarred Bruce Wayne and Batman. And I think he did a very good job in that movie. And I still love Christian Bale. And I still love Michael Keaton as Batman. It's that simple. The Batsuit in this movie, I actually really enjoyed. It's something more from the cartoon, which was actually a very, very nice touch. It wasn't leather kind of rubber, kind of fully rubber kind of suit that we've had in the past. It was something completely different, and I absolutely loved the look of that suit, the way he moved. The fight sequences in here with the Batman, especially the warehouse fight scene, is absolutely fantastic. The fight choreographing in there was brilliant, and I really, really enjoyed that fight scene, especially. And just wanted to see more of that. In whole, his character is actually quite good in here to the build up to the fight between Superman, and then just kind of tapers off a little bit because obviously Batman really can't do a lot in that end fight scene. Now, Henry Cavill as Superman in this movie, again, he felt numbed off from, say, like the Man of Steel. Now, I enjoyed the Man of Steel. It was an absolutely brilliant reboot to the Superman franchise, but in this movie, he fell off. There was something very, very different in this with his performance in this movie. I can never really put my finger on it, to be fair, but it was just something different. It didn't quite have that same zest. And I actually generally like Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's absolutely brilliant as Superman. And I do not like the fact that he's gone playing Superman in any way, shape, or form, because I would like to have seen a Man of Steel 2 movie. But in this performance, it's just seemed numbed off. And that's another problem with this movie. And I'm trying not to slate this because I did actually enjoy this. And then we get introduced to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I fell in love with her when watching this movie. She is absolutely fantastic. The Wonder Woman standalone movie was absolutely brilliant. And when she's on screen in Batman vs. Superman, she does make quite an impression. And to be fair, I don't think she's in this movie enough, to be honest with you. I know she's there quite predominantly at the end, but there is a reason for that. She is needed. Superman just can't take on Doomsday by herself. And to be honest with you, you don't get a true, real kind of good sense of what she's going to be like as Wonder Woman until you get to that standalone movie. The fight scene towards the end is very, very good, I have to admit. It's not hard to follow. Yes, there's quite a lot of special effects and visual effects in this movie, but they're not hard to follow as such. You get a grasp of what's going on, which is a nice little touch. The other great little touch is that Batman in that scene can only really just sit back and watch them fight it out, and he can only have a certain hand in this movie, in this fight scene, which is actually really quite a nice touch, to be fair. I actually like that. He did try and do his bit to help them out, which is very good, but the actual fighting, he couldn't actually get involved. Doomsday. The biggest problem with this movie before it got released is the trailers, is that they put far too much in the trailers. So the surprise of Doomsday being in this movie, when it actually got to it, it's like, okay. That's what I was like, because you've already seen it, and you already knew it was coming, it was just like, yeah, okay, let's just see what happens. And all that. And to be fair, the look of Doomsday in this movie wasn't that good, in my opinion. It didn't remind me of the cartoons in any way, shape, or form. And it just felt wrong. It's the best way I can put it. Don't get me wrong, it was a nice touch to put it in there, but there was no surprise there for me because they put it in the trailer. So when it got to it, I was just like, okay, right, let's see him fight. That's another problem I have. Storyline in this is reasonably decent. I have to admit, it's not hard to follow. It is a little bit predictable in places. I'm not gonna lie. The rest of the bits I've got with this movie, the greatest part of this movie, there's one line that Batman says to Superman. It's like, "You're not brave, men are brave." The idea of the fight in there was to show Superman what it feels like to be human, to be beaten down and have to get back up again and fight. And that was the point of it, which is the saving grace of that fight scene. Once again, like I said, there's a massive build-up to this fight scene for it to only last 7 minutes. And it was a little bit underrated and a little bit disappointing. And I'm not going to slate this movie anymore, because I did walk out that cinema going, that is an enjoyable watch. Once again, like I said at the beginning of the video, the extended edition does fill in a lot of gaps. The majority of the performances in here were actually quite good, and there were some very poor performances in this movie as well. My biggest bugbear with the DC Universe at the moment, and as you can notice, is I am a massive fan of the DC Universe, is that they were trying to keep up with the Marvel Universe, which was an impossible challenge for them to do. To do Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel was a very good movie. I really enjoyed that movie. It was a great start to kick off the franchise. Then to go straight into Batman vs. Superman, I don't think was a wise choice. And then to jump straight into the Justice League as well wasn't a good choice either. The way DC should have gone is go, let's not keep up with the Marvel Universe and let's take the time to do the standalone movies first and then start going into stuff like the Justice League. I would have been quite happy to see Man of Steel, Man of Steel 2, a reboot of the Batman with Ben Affleck in the Batman as Batman. The Wonder Woman one we already had. The Aquaman movie is actually very good. The Wonder Woman movie is very good. I'm looking forward to like the Flashpoint. I mean, possibly a Cyborg movie. I do believe there is one being in production at the moment. I would rather have them take the time of doing these standalone movies and then rushing into something just to try and keep up with the trend. Build on the standalones, then go into the Justice Leagues kind of scenario. But the standalone movies are by far what are doing DC the best at this moment. And that's what they should stop. That's what they should just keep focusing on before they start doing the team up movies. That is what they focus. That should be their main focus. It's like the Batman movie that's coming along or being in production. They're taking time with this one, which is good, which I really, really enjoy. We got Wonder Woman 2 coming out next year, which is absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to see that movie. And I've got a lot of love for DC, but at the moment they've got absolutely no traction for some of their movies. They have got a little bit because they're standalones, and they just need to work on them. I can't emphasize the fact that they just need to work on their standalone movies before they jump into like stuff like the Justice League. Because once again, the Justice League, I enjoyed the movie, but once again, it's got a huge amount of problems with this movie. Again, if I was ever to review that, that would be again another tough review for me to do. But generally, if I was to rate Batman versus Superman, I can only give it 6.5 out of 10. That's the best I can do. To be honest with you, it's worth a lower rating, but because I enjoyed watching this movie, without taking into consideration the flaws with it, is the reason why it's got a 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10. So on that note, please tell me what you think. Put it in the comments down below. As normal, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, whatever you're doing. Please take care and goodbye.